Everyone, Paul Pro Scale Models, welcome to another video build. Today we start Revell's 1/25 62 Impala SS. Yes, so a kit I was completely inspired by my buddy Dan Parent. Dan built one of these a while back. I think it was a tribute to his father-in-law, if I remember right, a car he used to own. And he showed me one night, painted in forest green. It looked absolutely fantastic. I already had the kit in the stash, and I thought, I've got to build that. And here we are, we're going to build it. Was originally going to do the forest green, and I found this colour we're going to use instead, so I went with it. And I'm glad I did, because it's quite an unusual colour, and I think it really, really suits this car. So get yourself a cup of tea. This is a 4-part video series, 2 hours in total, 22 hours of footage, all condensed into 4 separate video builds. So put your feet up, and if you've got any questions, ask them at the end. Don't forget, you can get early access on all these videos. Just 3-month early access at the minute because the amount of content I've got out there. Other perks as well, including a discount on Pro Scale paints, exclusive Saturday bench update, blah, blah, blah. There's loads of stuff. All in the description down below. You become a patron, and you keep me being able to make these videos. So let's get started by looking through the box and seeing what we get in the kit and some extras we've added to it as well. Right then, so Revell's 1/25 1962 Chevrolet Impala SS. By all accounts, a great looking kit. You get 3 options in the kit. We're going to go with the left side option, which is basically the box art with different wheels in a different colour. Fairly new kit. We get some nice Pegasus wheels that were sent to me by a good friend of mine. A 23-inch Tees chrome rims. I think they're a torque thrust copy, if I remember correctly. Really nice looking wheels, and some Pegasus brake discs and calipers, which we're not going to leave in the really tasteful looking chrome. We're going to strip those and paint them ourselves. I was also sent an Iceman Collections engine for review as well. Sadly, the gearbox was moulded incorrectly, and the replacement didn't turn up in time for the build. And we've got some of our very own Zoom-on license plates that we saw over on Pro Scale Paints. These are 3D embossed photo etch with a matching decal to go over the top to give that stamped look effect. Now, we've got 2 paint options there. One was GM Evolution Blue, and the other is GM Sausalito Fire Mist. Now, I'm not going to say which one to use, but as a spoiler, it's not the Evolution Blue. The body is very well moulded, really, really clean. Just a couple of seam lines to clean up, including those awkward ones on the rear C-pillar. But other than that, really nice clean body, absolutely beautiful looking car, and really nice quality plastic from Revell. It really does look good. So got a couple of tricky seams to do, especially that rear one. The interior, really nice interior as well. A couple of options for different seats. I think there's a couple of options, quite a lot of different things in this kit. So quite a well stacked, well spec kit. Like I say, really nicely moulded. There's the other option seats. You've got separate seats. You've got a bench seat as well. So nice to get the options in the kit. The plastic is very well moulded. Very, very clean. We've got our chassis floor pan. Well, it's actually our floor pan. As you can see, it's one of the later Chinese mouldings. And then there's our chassis there as well, which again, nice detail on there. Yeah, great looking kit so far. You can pick this up from a lot of places. I've seen it as cheap as £25 in the UK, which is pretty good. As usual, we've got the bonnet or hood moulded separately. Dashboards there with the door cards and steering wheel. We've got the exhaust system, the backs of the wheels, the air cleaner, suspension, the valve covers there as well. Again, all nicely, crisply moulded. We've got the front A-frame. More wheels, I think are they the backs of wheels? I forget what they are now. More suspension parts. Got the main engine, body and transmission, the cylinder heads, the fan, auxiliary belts, water pump, etc. Then we've got the firewall, the radiator housing, the radiator itself, the differential, some shocks on there, and again, all flawlessly molded. Absolutely stunning kit. If you're looking for a first American car kit, I would highly recommend this one. Absolutely brilliant kit. And again, a couple of different exhaust options, a roll cage as well, which is optional, and some different wheels there as well. We've also got the other subframes as well as the rear axle. And chrome, loads of chrome in this. It's absolutely beautiful front and rear bumper. We're going to strip all these and re-chrome them with the ProScale Paints chrome system because the kit chrome doesn't look realistic at all. So they'll all be stripped. We've got some nice wheels that come with the kit. Now these are nice wheels as is in the kit. But I think with our Pegasus wheels, they're going to look even better. Another different rear bumper and front bumper, only slightly different to each other. So pick and choose which one you want. Like I say, we're going to strip all this chrome and respray it with the ProScale chrome system. Then the front grille, some side strips, different wheels, some interior parts, the shifter, the carb, the rear seat insert, the mirrors, door handles, so on and so forth, and a whole host of tyres as well. So really well spec kit for the money. There's a lot in this box. You really can't fault it at all. There is a lot in there. And our coloured rear lights as well, which are already moulded in red plastic, and our front and rear screen. Nice decal options as well with the kit, apart from the horrendous brake discs, which are decals, which, yeah, I don't get at all. But some nice decal options in there, different coloured instruments for the dashboard, different Chevy logos for the exterior, and instructions. Nice, clear, concise Revell instructions. All the colour call-outs at the front there as well. Start off with the engine build. Different options for the engine, so pay attention. Different options for the exhaust as well. So pick the variant you're going to do, and then stick with the instructions for that area as you go through the kit. But overall, well impressed with the kit, and I thought it warranted a good look through the box. I know it's 5 minutes of the video. But I thought a kit this quality from Revell. There's a few kits lately I've built from Revell. The 442 Oldsmobile, the 351, was it? Ford Mustang I did in yellow not long ago. Both new tool kits, absolutely fantastic. And this is a slightly older kit, and still absolutely fantastic quality. So like I say, if you're looking for an American car kit, they would be my 3 choices of kit. So nice clear instructions. There's plenty of parts to deal with. So you need to pick and choose your parts wisely. Make sure you've got the correct ones for the variant you're doing. And yeah, with these added extras, hopefully we'll get a nice build out of this. So we'll start off, as always, with the body. Now, I've got a white background on the bench today. I trialled this in the Honda NSX build. The camera struggles with the autofocus on it. I think it looks a lot clearer, but the camera doesn't like it, and it does go out of focus. So on subsequent builds, and I think about halfway through this one, I go back to the blue background. So if we lose a bit of focus now and then, bear with me. I was just trying it, and it's a shame because I think the video is a bit clearer, but it is what it is. So we cut off the chassis and interior. What I'm doing right now is assembling all this to check that these wheels are going to fit. So looking at it, I can get those well and truly tucked under the arches. So we shouldn't have any issues there whatsoever. But I just thought I'll just double check. And then the next fun part we've got is trying to mount them in place to get the car to sit right. So I opted to do something I don't normally do on these builds, which was to build up all the chassis and spray it built up. And I did it for a reason. Not necessarily the best way to do it to paint it, but I did it so I could get the stance of the car right from the very beginning. So I started off by cleaning all the body up. Some UMP sponge sanders, thinny sticks, so on and so forth. Get rid of all the plastic burrs from the bottom of the kit. Get rid of any seam lines. These ones on the rear quarter just there are an absolute pain in the butt on these kits. They just require really gentle, slow sanding. It takes forever to do. My best advice would be to do as good a job as you can on the seam lines, and then put a guide coat of primer down, and anything you've missed will show again. And that's where I've been doing more and more lately. But overall, the body is really clean. Other than that seam line behind the C-pillar, it didn't take a lot of cleanup at all. So nice to see a nice clean body from Revell. UMP sanders work fantastic. They're my go-to sanders for 10 years now. They last forever. They're very efficient, and with all the different shapes, including the customizables that you can cut to any shape, they get all those nooks and crannies. So, like I say, these are probably the most difficult seams to deal with on this car. So just take your time. Be aware of where your sander is as well, that you're not gouging any plastic into the side of that C-pillar as well, because it's probably the worst thing that you could do. On the bonnet, we've got that awkward connection point, which we cleaned off with a thinny stick. Just checking it all fits in place, which it does absolutely beautifully. There we go. And then just give it all clean up, ready for primer. So our goal here is preparation for primer. So we're trying to do the best surface we can. So a little bit out of focus. Apologies, people. I do apologise. So we've got a 200 grit Tamiya sponge sander. We've got rid of all the seams on the body, and we're going around and we're scuffing all the plastic up. What we're doing is we're taking the high shine off it and dulling it back, and in the process we're putting thousands of micro abrasions in the finish. This will allow our primer to grip onto the plastic as it's got much more surface area to grab. You're also smoothing out the plastic, so again you're getting the smoothest surface possible, and all this preparation is what will lead up to a fantastic paintwork job, or spray job should we say. So just take your time here, don't be in a rush, just be careful sanding parts that you're not reprofiling shapes. When you're doing the seam lines, make sure you're not taking off swage lines, it should be there as well. Very easily done. This camera being out of focus is a real pain in the butt. Anyway, once that's all cleaned up, we've got some ProScale Paint's pre-paint degreaser. I poured some out into the cap. We've got my old Mickey Mouse toothbrush, and we're going to go around. I'm just going to scrub the whole body. What this will do, will get rid of any mold release, which you don't tend to get on kits anymore. What you're going to tend to get more is fingerprints, crisp chip dust where you've been eating Cheetos, or Wotsits while you've been building away, eating your dinner. You're going to get greasy fingerprints all over the body, and they're going to be more detrimental to anything. So it's all well and good washing your sprues at the beginning, which I never ever do. This is the important step. This is the most important step for preparing for paint. You are keying the surface for probably the most important painting process of your build. The primer is the base for your paintwork, so you want to do as good a job as possible. So we degrease the body, we've got rid of all the seam lines, we key the surface so we know we've got a beautifully smooth keyed surface ready for our primer, and then we keep that going all the way through the build, and we'll get the best paint job we possibly can. So we've got the body itself mounted onto my Tamiya stand. The bonnet, or hood if you're American, we're going to 3M double-sided tape to an old primer bottle. I've done it off camera, but basically there we go. We just stick it on top. Now put another fingerprint on. So we're going to wipe that off again with a bit of pre-paint degreaser. Our pre-paint degreaser from ProScale is ideal for this job. It works absolutely perfect and it evaporates away. We're in the spray booth. We've got our Tamiya anti-static brush, and we've got our ProScale Paint grey primer. Now I'm using a spray booth. I've got a 3M half mask respirator on. I'm gloved up. There's a window open for a little bit of ventilation, and this is what you should be doing with all paints. Any paints, you should be wearing a respirator. A 3M half mask, I use a 7500 with the A1 filters in, and pre-filters is more than enough for lacquer paints. If you're using 2K, I would go for a full face with the A2 filters and pre-filters. They don't have to cost a fortune. If you shop around, you can get good deals on them. But there are very important aspects of painting. Protect your lungs. Make sure you're in the room on your own. And if you're sensitive to any of the chemicals, leave the room after you'd spray, because this will flash off in between coats. Now, because we're putting a light grey primer over a white body, it can be quite difficult to see. So my best advice would be just put a very light coat down to begin with. You can see the grey covering already. Our grey primer, all our primers cover absolutely fantastic. And what I'm doing here is, this is just a guide coat. So I'm not intending to prime this at all. Sped the footage up a bit. I'm intending just to put a nice even first coat of primer down, and any imperfections will become apparent. So what I'm looking for now is seam lines that either not thoroughly got rid of, or that suddenly appear out of nowhere that are missed, and the primer will spot that in a heartbeat. And I've already spotted one of the C-pillar seams is still prevalent, and I'm like, damn it, because they're the most awkward ones to get rid of. So we're just going to go around, still give it a nice even coat of primer, and then we'll let this flash off for an hour or so, and then we'll come back and resand them and reprime it later. But still get your nice even coat of primer down, focus on all the wheel arches, all the nooks and crannies and everywhere. Once it's dry, we're back over on the bench, and we've got a Tamiya 2000 grit sponge. I've been using the UMP sponge as well. I'm just going to gently sand any seam lines away that become apparent. So this C-pillar one, I hadn't fully got rid of. I could just seal indentation where it was been on both sides. So we've taken care of that. And the guide coat of primer Also spotted a seam line on the boot lid or the trunk lid, which we also got rid of as well. So these guide coated primers, highly recommended. Like I say, this is the most important stage of paint for your bodywork. This is the base for your paintwork. So take your time here. It's easy to rush things. I see so many people out there rushing to build kits, and I always think, what is the rush? For me, it's a different ball game. This is my job. For me, the quicker I get a build done, the better, because I get the build done, I get the content created, I get a video out of it, and I can move on to the next one. And every build for me is obviously promotion from a patron, the YouTube channel, pro scale. So it's important for me. It's almost as if time is money. For you, this is a hobby. So enjoy the process, enjoy the time, and enjoy getting the best you can out of your build, because, you know, what's the point in rushing it? You get out of a hobby what you put in. I always say this, and I think it's an important aspect of any hobby. So we've got rid of all the seam lines now. I'm confident that they're all gone. What we're going to do is, with the same Pro Scale primer, we're going to come back and apply our primer back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to put a light coat down everywhere and just focus on the areas we sanded a little bit more. Put a couple of extra very light coats on, building it up. Our primer dries super quick. It really, really does. And obviously we're painting the bonnet hood at the same time, every single coat of paint. Now my preferred choice of airbrush for this is an Iwata CR3. It's a 0.3 Iwata. It's one of their wider spray pattern brushes, and it's what I use for priming and painting my car bodies. They're a cheap airbrush. They're about £120. It's down the bottom end of the Iwata range, and as a workhorse airbrush for doing car bodies, it is absolutely perfect. So ideal for doing this. So we put a coat down, get all the nooks and crannies around the engine bay, all around the windows, the bottom of the sills, the wheel arches, everywhere, and then put it down, let it flash off for 5-10 minutes. We don't want to put any wet coats down. We're just going to keep them nice and dry as we go through. Our primer is a microfiller, so it will infill any micro imperfections on the body. You will need to sand it once it's dry, but once it's sanded, it will be super smooth. So absolutely perfect for doing this. So there we go. There's our body all primed. Now we've left that dry for about 4 hours. We've got a Tamiya 3000 grit sponge this time. What we're going to do is go around and very lightly key the primer. Now we're not trying to sand through. We're literally taking the top level of primer off. And what you'll feel from our primer is, at the airbrush, it will feel slightly rough. And that is the microfiller properties. Once you've sanded it, it will go as smooth as silk. And the reason it's rough is it's microfiller. It fills in all the micro imperfections on the body. Once you sand it, it goes super smooth and it gives you a fantastic surface in preparation for your paint. So it's a case of going around the whole body, just lightly scuffing it up. You're taking the top layer of paint off, removing any high spots or bits of dust that have landed in there, and just take your time, especially on the side of this where we've got all those lines and raised detail. You don't want to burn through the primer, so no real pressure on there at all. And we'll just work our way around until the entire body is all sanded and super smooth. I would wipe off your sanding pad every now and then, and much to my girlfriend's annoyance, Hannah, I usually use my trouser leg to wipe it off because it's the perfect tool. Once we're done, we've got the anti-static brush. We've wiped it all off. I'm just giving a wipe over with this, and I'm just checking for any areas I may have missed. That damn camera. Making sure it's all super smooth and ready for our paint. So, as I said, I had two choices of paint for this. One was the GM Evolution Blue, which is a very light blue, silver steel colour, very strange colour. And the second one was this colour. So I was inspired by my buddy Dan Parent's Impala, which he actually did in forest green, but I wanted a slightly different colour. Searching for our paint database, our actual paint mixing database, I found this very unusual colour, which is only referenced on, I think it was a Cadillac Eldorado, I think it was. Looked at the colour, I thought that colour is absolutely stunning. So I mixed it up and thought, you know what, let's go for it. So this is General Motors Sausalito Fire Mist Metallic. So it's a metallic green with some very strange tones of silver and yellow in. It's a very, very unusual colour, but I am so glad I picked this colour because it looks absolutely fantastic. So our paints are Pro Scale, are pre-mixed. You literally pour them into your airbrush and spray away. Give them a good shake before you start. They go on in dry coats. There are no wet coats needed at all. This is as thick a paint you need to do per coat. And it's a case just build up nice and slowly until you've got sufficient coverage. So I'm using my Water CR3 again. And I'm at about 18 psi. And as you can see, I'm putting super thin light coats down. Now, because it's not a gloss paint, it doesn't need to go on wet. I'm building the colour up slowly. We'll get the metallic flakes to settle much nicer than putting on wet. You do not want to put this on wet at all. And B, it will get the colour coverage much better than hosing the paint on. I see so many people painting correctly with different products. I'm not even going to get into it, but you see reactions like, oh no, this has happened because it's been used improperly. Follow our instructions, nice, light, thin coats, and you'll end up with a phenomenal paint job, as you'll see mine looks right at the end. So nice thin coats. You're not going to get full coverage in 1 or 2 coats. This probably took me 8 or 9 very, very light coats with a 5-minute flash off in between each one. Just build up nice and slow. So what I tend to do is put a coat of paint on, scoot back over to my bench, because my actual build bench is about 2 foot to the right of this, 3 foot to the right. Do some for 5 minutes, come back, and just before you know it, you got your coat of paint down. I'll also alternate from left and right coats to up and down, and that way we're getting all the nooks and crannies, all the panel lines, and we get nice even coverage. But remember, underneath all the sills, all the wheel arches, in and around the door shuts, in and around the tops of the windows, everywhere, we want nice, even paintwork everywhere. You can see just how fine a coat of paint I'm putting down. It's not a lot at all. And the same with the bonnet as well. And before you commit to putting any paint down, number one, wipe it over with the anti-static brush from Tamiya and blow a bit of air, just air on the body, so that if any dust has landed on there, you're basically blowing it off. And again, my spray boots on, I've got my respirator on, and I'm gloved up as well. And that's it, just nice light thin coats. You don't need to spray them on thick at all. You will get a much better finish doing it this way. Trust me, I kind of know what I'm doing. So there we go. So we're probably about 3 or 4 coats in now. You can see the beautiful colour starting to show through. It hasn't got its full depth yet, but it will do soon. And as you can see, alternate between left and right and up and down passes. Nice and simple to do. You can see all the nice shapes and lines on the body becoming apparent now as well. We've got a nice trim masking job to do later on as well. So definitely a kit that will keep you busy. But yeah, this colour, I'm so happy I picked it. Once it's clear coated, it looks absolutely stunning. But sadly for you guys, we don't get to clear coat into part 2 today, because there's so much work to do on it. And this build is a 4-part build series. I had 22 hours of footage on this build. That much stuff to show. We've got quite a bit of modifying to do. The suspension, to the brakes, to the wheels. We do some nice work to the engine as well. So yeah, this is a 4-part build series. So yeah, sit down, get a cup of tea, put your feet up, and watch this beautiful car turn around and become, well, a really even beautifuler car, because it's a great looking kit. And at the end, it's probably one of my favourite pieces of work I've ever done. As you see, the paint covers really well. Just these nice light thin coats, building up nice and slow. It does pay off. It does seem like it takes forever watching me, but it doesn't. It's actually quite a quick process. And on this car at the minute, all we've got is the body and the bonnet. We are going to colour code some interior and engine bits later on, but we'll deal with those in a bit. So I just thought I'd break down the painting process a little bit more, just to show you it as we go. Like I said, we're probably about halfway through the amount of coats I want to put on here. So just build up nice and slow. You can see how fine a mist of paint I'm putting on. It's not a lot at all. And there we go. And I would say we are probably near the end of all our coats of paint now. You can see that beautiful colour shining through now. It is a stunning colour. My buddy Dan did forest green, which is a bit darker than this one. But what I like about this is it's that yellowy tinge it gets when the light catches it. I just think it's a really, really cool colour. Absolutely fantastic. Like I say, building these paint coats up nice and lightly definitely pays off, because you get much nicer coverage and a much more nicer depth of paint as well. Beautiful. And the great thing about our paints, because we don't overthin them, number one, they're not as hot as other paints out there. And number two, they go a long way. I've literally just painted my 67 Revell. I didn't even use a quarter of the bottle. And that was a nice light metallic blue colour, turquoise mist. And it really used hardly any paint at all. If you look at the bottle in the background, this body is nearly painted. And again, we've barely even used, what, 8 millimeters of paint out the bottle. It's not even like a fifth of the bottle empty. It is very, very efficient, our paint. It does go a long way. And there we go. I think we're working up to the end coats now. So I reckon, rough guesstimate, because I lose count, I reckon there's about 8 or 9 coats of paint on this. Really nice and light. Just building up nice and slow. And the paintwork looks absolutely phenomenal. It's almost flawless. It looks absolutely beautiful. So take your time and do the best job you possibly can. This is where all preparation comes in, because it really does pay off in the long run. Just one final go over and we'll be all done. So like I say, the paint's very efficient. We will also colour match any paint at no extra cost as well. If you can't find a paint on our website, drop us a message, either the email address, proscalepaints@gmail.com, or use the contact us form over on the website. The website's linked in the description of the video down below. Got any questions, drop me a message. If you've got any colours you'd like us mixing, we don't charge anything at all. You don't need to order multiple bottles. We will just literally make your paint at your request, put it on the website for everybody to order, and you can order at your own leisure. We've got over 550 paints on the site currently, plus lots of other products from Zoom on, aftermarket parts. We've got some distributors on there as well. Our own V8 distributors are on there as well. And we are stockers of Bob Smith's glues as well. So we build up the website nice and slow. The paint range in just over a year has grown to, like I say, over 550 paints. So yeah, if you can't see anything on there you want, drop us a message and I'll try my utmost to try and find it for you. So there we go. Looking really good. Very happy with this colour. Absolutely beautiful paint job. As you can see, all that preparation's paid off. We've got a super smooth body, super smooth, flawless paint job. And yeah, looks absolutely wonderful. So we're back on the bench, and now we have got hours of masking to do. So we're going to mask all this off and spray it in ProScale Paint's Superfine Silver, which is my preferred colour for the chrome trim. Now, we do have a chrome system, and it works fantastic on separate chrome pieces. On the body, part like this, it's a bit tricky because it requires a 2K base coat. So I always think the Superfine Silver works just fine for doing bits like this. It just needs some careful masking. I'm using the Azu 1mm tape, which is my preferred thin tape at the minute. I was using the Tamiya, my compressor, which is a sound you won't hear going forward anymore either. There we go. You won't hear that sound again because I've got a silent compressor on the way. I bought a Siler compressor. So yes, apologies about the compressor. But yeah, I used to use the Tamiya thin tapes, but they just started to get unreliable. They kept coming off the reel or wavy, so you didn't get a straight edge of tape, and it was very annoying. So I've gone back to Azu. I used to use Azu a long time ago when UMP Retail stocked it. And yeah, it's just a better quality tape. Comes from 0.4, 0.71, 1.52 and 2.5 mil. So every size needed. And it's just as good a tape quality as Tamiya. But actually the quality control, in my opinion, is much, much better. So like I say, a lot of careful masking required on this. There is a lot of trim to paint. So hours spent for what will take mere minutes to paint. And mere seconds to unmask. So it's a lot of work, but it's worth it in the long run because it adds to the overall aesthetic of the vehicle. So take your time here. Like I say, I like our ProScale Paint Superfine Silver. It is probably our finest pigmented metallic paint we do. It sprays absolutely beautiful. I have a completely separate Iwata CR3 for my metallics. I keep it separate from the standard colour so we don't get any metallic flakes in there. And again, at 18 psi, we're just going to put down several light coats of this, build it up nice and slow. But we've got the side to do, we've got the windows to do, all around the edge, top and bottom. And obviously make sure you get the angle into the window as well, so when you're looking from the side, you can see the silver on the inside as well. The coverage is absolutely fantastic. The paint is super finely pigmented. It looks absolutely fabulous. It dries really quick, so by the time you've done one pass around the body, you can near enough just keep going around until you got your coverage. Again, don't hose it on for 2 reasons. It doesn't need it. The pigment builds up better on lighter coats, and you don't want to flood the masking tape and get any bleed through, which, touch wood, we didn't really get any on this. Quite lucky. So like I say, hours of masking for minutes of painting. You can see just how nice and vibrant and shiny our superfine silver is. It looks absolutely fantastic. Now remember on parts like the windows and that side strip, because it's quite prominent sticking out, get the different angles from above and below and the side as well to make sure you get the full coverage, because you don't want to mask all this, see that you've missed an area and then think, I'm going to have to mask the whole thing again. So just make sure you're thorough on getting everywhere covered as you go around. So we go, tipping the excess paint back into the bowl. And here we go. Nice, gentle masking. Now, always make sure you detack all your masking tape. You don't want to be pulling paint off. The chances of it happening is very slim. But you want to detack the tape so it's barely tacky anymore. And when you're pulling it off, pull it away from the tape like that. Don't pull it up in the air. So again, you're minimising the chance of pulling paint off. Using lacquer paints, you're reducing that risk massively. But still, good technique is key. And like I say, hours of masking, minutes of painting, seconds of removing the masking tapes. And just nice and careful, working our way around. And hopefully, we should have a perfectly finished trim body. Wouldn't we all like a perfectly finished trim body, hey? Anyway, moving on. And there we go. Absolutely fantastic. Look at that. Looks absolutely stunning next to the Sausalito green. Absolutely beautiful. Very, very happy with that. That superfine silver is a beautiful looking paint. The green looks phenomenal. Very, very happy with this. So, yeah, sadly, we're going to have to leave it there today. But we're back for part 2 very soon. We'll get this in 2K, and it looks absolutely phenomenal in 2K. So thanks for joining us today. I will catch you all next time.